Hi everyone, it's David, looking rather scruffy and unshaven. I hope you'll forgive me, but we really wanted to talk about Orlando, or more precisely, talk about how to hold your children through an event like the mass shootings in Orlando that happened on Sunday. So, just finished writing a blog post about this, the title of which is You Are Safe and the World is Good. And I'll talk about why that title in just a moment. But on that blog post, there are 4 free stories that we hope are helpful. We've written these stories in the past all because of big events like this. So some of these stories may be familiar to some of you. Prince, which is the first one on the post, is the name of a dog that gets hit by a car, and it's a hit and run. So it's a metaphorical story that we wrote in response to the shootings in Newtown, the elementary school. And so it is about unforeseen tragedy and having the lingering question of how could this happen? Why did this happen? And then it gives images and a narrative to bolster the feeling of you are safe and the world is good. The next one is Helpers, which we wrote for a while back. A series of tornadoes went through Oklahoma. A lot of damage and people were killed. And so we did a story about helpers, about people that come and that you can be a helper as well. So it changes the fear into service. Another story is Denny and the Could Be, when there was that Ebola scare, you'll remember, and a lot of people were nervous about that. Well, of course, the children were too. And so the could be is getting that phrase and that consciousness out of your child's mind. What could happen? What could be? And it's once again a series of images and narratives that will help get rid of that question and replace it with what's so. And then lastly, Someone Else's Dragon, which is about the tendency to take on other people's fears. Things that in this age where there is news round the clock, round the world, there's lots of stuff offered to us to be afraid of, and consequently off to our children, even though they don't watch the news. So to get those 4 stories, you can go to our website, sparklestories.com. Go right at the top menu, you'll see the word blog. Click on that. It's probably the most recent post. And then you can listen to the stories from there and read the article. Now, as we are holding our children with what happened in Orlando, you have to recognize that even though we may not be talking to our children about this, even though they may not have access to the news, even though they may not, their children aren't, or their friends aren't talking about this, it's still in the air, it's still in the energy around them. So they will be feeling that something's not quite right, and that the adults around them are all a little heavier than they were the day before. So I really think it's something to take up. Children are at once very delicate as well as resilient. Delicate in that, remember, when you were a child, the littlest things from an adult perspective can be very impacting. Just being lost at the farmer's market for 30 seconds, it suddenly has a big effect on your sense of safety and who you are in the world. And so keeping that in mind, children are also very resilient. They will immediately begin to cope with that and strategize, and they build their brains accordingly. Stories can help. They can enter at just the right time to not only emotionally make sense of big events, but it can replace fear with actual strategy. It can give children tools that they may not already have. And actually, quite frankly, the adults who listen to these stories also learn a few things about how to process. So the title is You Are Safe and the World is Good. I want to talk just a little bit about that before we end. We, as adults, may be skeptical about those 2 phrases, you are safe, the world is good. But for a child, I really do believe that it's important for them for that to be a foundation for them. And here's a way in which you adults can come to be more comfortable with those 2 phrases if you're not already. You are safe right now. It's a very present tense way of being with your child. You can firmly and believe that they are safe, and you can say to them, you are safe, because they are right now there in their bed, driving to camp or wherever. You are safe. The world is good. Think about their world. Think about your child's world. And their world is good. And you can believe that it's good. And you can definitely believe that you are going to do whatever you can to make sure that their world is good. And as they get older, they'll develop their more complex version of that, just like you have. But for a growing child, for a young child, I think it's important for those two things to be in place, especially when they're navigating a world where every tragedy that happens is brought to our attention. It's very easy to feel unsafe and that there's a lot of evil in the world. So we can believe in pain. We can know that pain exists in the world and it is good. And we can know that there is danger out there, but they are safe. And the adults around the child are going to do whatever they need to do to make sure that they are safe. So some thoughts from Sparkle Stories, and please use the stories, pass them around if you feel that that is useful to people in your community. We just want to do our part. So as we all hold those that are affected by the events in Orlando, may your world be safe and good. Until next time, bye-bye.